How would you deal with it? Every time you walked out the door, there's this poor guy with dogs licking his sores. Now you might think, gosh, he could have taken him into his household as a servant or something. There would have been some risks with that. And it seems he just chose to ignore it. Yeah, there he is. Don't pay any attention. Hang on to that. Friday was the feast of St. Vincent de Paul. You know, we hear his name pretty regularly around here. Vincent de Paul was actually a contemporary of St. Francis de Sales. He was born a little later than Francis and lived a number of years longer than Francis did. Died in 1660. And the two were so close that as Francis was getting a little bit up in years, he turned the spiritual direction of the Sisters of Visitation, the community that he had formed with St. James de Chantal. He turned the spiritual direction over to Vincent de Paul. Now, Vincent was born in a poor peasant family, and his attraction to the priesthood was genuine, but it was really an attraction to a more comfortable life. If I could pull that off, you know, I won't have to work the fields for the rest of my life. I won't have to live hand to mouth. And so he became a priest. And that was, you know, okay, I made it. Pretty much his attitude. Until one night. In the wee hours of the morning, he was summoned to the bedside of a dying peasant. He heard the man's confession, anointed him, and this old dying man thanked Vincent. If you hadn't been here, I would have gone to hell. Thank you. Thank you. Well, everything changed for Vincent after that. When he recognized the nature of his vocation, the gift he'd been given, and his responsibility to give it. After that, he became incredibly attentive to the poor, to the marginalized. He reached out to assist prostitutes. He ransomed galley slaves. These criminals condemned to a life in the holds of ships, pulling oars. During his lifetime, he set 1,200 of those slaves free. And our St. Vincent de Paul Society was inspired by him, but it wasn't started until a couple of centuries later by Frederick Ozanam, also a friend in Paris. Something happened with Vincent de Paul. Something deep in his heart, something all about his faith, where his attention moved away from himself and out to the people of God. Well, I missed you last weekend. I hope Jim Isley did well. I guess not. And it's kind of delightful that today's the feast of St. Michael the Archangel, and that was the parish I was at Grand Ledge last week. So I was there to do the weekend masses, and then Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday evening, I did a little parish mission. And frankly, it was the same program I did here during the summer. We called that one Midsummer Spiritual Renewal. So this was like early fall spiritual renewal. Some of you were there. Some of you have heard me talk about it since. It was a simple message, a little bit of a developmental one, built around that gospel passage in Matthew and Luke when Jesus says, "Ask and you shall receive." Then what? So one night I talked about receiving. How important it is to begin to notice the gifts we're blessed with. And how significant it is to give thanks. The next night, once you receive a gift, what happens? Probably not. There's a certain dimension of nurturing these gifts, caring for them. And the final night was about what we do with our gifts. And that is give them. That, of course, is the tough part, because there's something in us that says, well, if I finally got it, it's not going anywhere. I want to hang on to this. I might need it later. I might not have enough. You can hear that in the attitude of the rich man of the gospel. I can't bother with you. I've got to take care of my own place, my own family. There's a message about giving. Give. Give. Well, you know, an institution like a parish will always give you opportunities to give. And I know sometimes that can just be like, gosh, will they never stop? Probably not. But here's what's tough. Poor man lying in your door, covered with sores, and these aren't dogs. It's probably his own darn fault. If I help him out, he'll probably waste them. I worked hard for this. What did he do? He just lays around all day. In this gospel parable, there's no judgment, no explanation, just a need that went unmet. Every once in a while, I get a phone call from a gentleman. We make an appointment. He's learned to not just pop in because I'm not always here. We chat for a while, catch up on a lot of things, and then he gives me an envelope. And almost always, in the envelope is $200. And at this point, he says, you know what to do with it. And of course I think, yeah, I'm going fishing. You know what to do with this. Pass this on to someone who needs it, but make sure they're not going to waste it. So this happened, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago, and I got that envelope. And I really didn't know what I was going to do. And within, might have even been the same day, I had phone conversations with two people who did not have enough gas in their cars. One of them to come to church. Well, I split them $200, and God bless him and God bless them. You know, we'll never run out of poor men laying at our doorways. We'll never run out of needy people. And I know it can be challenging and frustrating. But please remember a couple of things. Matthew chapter 25, Jesus goes through that whole thing. When I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. The man's name was Lazarus. Jesus makes it clear it's him we're serving. The other one is this. There's a beautiful passage in St. Paul where he's talking to one of the faith communities, and he's cautioning them, don't impoverish yourselves in your generosity to help others. Be sensible about that. But also be careful about that sense of, well, I've done enough. Keep giving. The gift will ultimately be yours. We have all these gifts. We keep asking. We keep receiving. And there's this need to notice and give thanks and nurture. But also this quiet call to give. And that, too, is something to ask about. Where should I give? How much? When? How can I best serve you and your people? Because it's him we're giving to. May God bless us all.